Hey everyone, welcome to the new tutorial. This one is going to be all about stylizing your art. So I'm going to show you how to make your artwork look less stiff and a little bit more fluid and natural and more appealing to look at, and giving it more energy overall. So let's get right into it. So here are some really good examples that I've found online, and you can see what I mean about stylizing your art so that it looks completely different and it's your own. Whether it's exaggerating some features to give the character a whole new look, or just using a lot of hard and sharp edges, a lot of corners, that's a good style choice. Same with this guy, he's got this nice big curve here. It's very attractive, really cool, and it comes up to a nice little point there and then just straight across. Instead of just having those usual proportions of a dome, so it's a lot more appealing from a distance. That's the kind of thing we're aiming for. Have a look at this guy here. His features are really exaggerated. Have a look at that chin and jaw. That's like the big strong point in this piece. And that pointy nose, that short little pointy nose. Especially the way his skull goes. It's literally just like that and then straight down into a nice flowing motion. And that gives it a lot of flow and it's quite appealing. I really like the look of it. It's definitely a style choice, and it still has a lot of nice details in like the fingers. You can see the fingernails, it gives it that kind of edgy look. So it's still cartoony, but it's a mix of cartoony and detail as well. So it's really good. Have a look at this character here. I really love the style in this. The way her nose, really exaggerating those features. So she's still really attractive, and it gives the character a lot of personality. And it's basically a caricature in a way. But you see this kind of style used in a lot of Pixar movies and Disney, that kind of thing, because it's just a style choice. Like I said, it gives it character. Makes the characters interesting. They're really fun to look at. I mean, have a look at this guy here. I really love this. How he's got this tiny little head and his entire body is exaggerated to be really huge. And it's kind of the same thing as a caricature. With caricatures where things are exaggerated in the facial features. So if someone had a big nose, that's exaggerated. Or a big jaw, it's really exaggerated. So this guy here, because he's supposed to be a big, solid kind of guy, they've really exaggerated his entire body and given him this small little head and little limbs. Here's a cool style choice here with this Spider-Man hanging upside down. I really love the way these lines work. It's really super exaggerated. This is an extreme version, but it's a style, it's a style choice. This will separate you from everything else, from all of the others. Doing this kind of thing can really, bring you out and put you in the spotlight. And it's almost animated in a look, like it's a single image, but it feels like it's animated, and that's what I love. Humberto Ramos, one of my absolute favorite artists. He's just got this beautiful style, and you can just see it just screams energy and fluidity. It's just perfect. I really love his Spider-Man, the way he does it. And I always thought that his Spider-Man separates him from all of the other artists because he's just so unique in the way he does it, especially the way he animates his eyes. That Magneto's really cool. So yeah, that's the kind of thing that I'd like to get into today, is really stylizing your characters, just trying to take it, that next level. So I've got a really good reference here, and what I'm going to do is a bit of a test. So I'm going to do two different sketches. The first one is going to be your usual sketch, just judging it by eye, trying to look at every little detail and trying to get this as accurate as possible to the reference. And then we're going to do another version that's got way more energy because it's going to be more branched out. We're not going to follow the reference exactly as it is. We're going to try and do what we want, make it our own, and really go nuts with it. So here is the first version of me sketching through, really looking at this reference and basically just trying to, sketch what I see. And, that's what we do a lot as artists, if you've got a good reference. You just try and draw it as you see it. But the problem is sometimes we tend to look a little too closely. You're looking at everything just a little bit too closely, trying to get it as accurate as possible. And that's kind of what we're not going to do today. So here's my sketch. You can see it's quite similar. Not too bad, and it'd pass, especially if I was working for a client or doing some kind of commission here. You know, if I ultimately took this to the next stage and tried to ink it and go full color, you know, it wouldn't be too bad. But let's take it, you know, that next level. This is what I'm trying to talk about, stylizing your art. Let's see if we can add a lot more energy, start from scratch, and see what we end up with. Notice what I'm doing here. I'm actually drawing the outer shape of this guy, really throwing those lines in, straight up and down, and have a look at those angled shoulders. And then I'm squaring off the head there, trying to give it some real character and some sharp edges and shapes. Almost thinking in a cartoony manner. And that's a really good way to approach a reference. It's like really just focus on the outer shapes. So try and think of the guy as a silhouette. So try and think of those really pointy edges and really long streaky lines that have a bit of motion in them, you know, really try and add that flow. Even have a look at the hand. I really focused in on that hand and tried to make it look a bit animated in a way. Just kind of had a bit of fun with it. And definitely trying to get that diamond shape in the hand there. Kind of focusing on that. Literally trying to think of just shapes in this overall character. Especially with this, the index finger there, the pointed finger. I want to give that a little bit of flow, kind of bending it out a little bit. As I'm marking this with these blue lines, you can really see the motion and, you know, my thought process as I'm looking at this guy. Not trying to judge him so closely. I'm really just looking at the suggested shapes around the character. And that's really going to help kind of give this guy some edge and a lot more fluidity. So that's the trick. Trying not to look at it too closely. You'll also notice that my character's head is tilted up slightly. Like I've got kind of more of a dramatic angle. His body is basically the same, but I really wanted to have his head tilted up slightly just to give him even more attitude. You know, you don't have to follow the reference exactly as it is. So I've angled that head up. You know, it's basically giving you a nice head start, and then you're just kind of doing your own thing with it. Just run with it. You'll feel it as you go. Try and be as loose and as free as possible. And once I'm happy with my new structure, you can see I'm just going to start tidying it up a little bit more, and I'm still keeping it quite loose. Even when I'm going into the detailing here, I'm still trying to keep it loose and treating it like an animated character, or it's got a lot more of a cartoony kind of edge to it. And that's kind of what I want to do. I want to give it a lot more character. You know, really focusing on his attitude and personality as well. So that plays a big part. Think of the personality and that attitude of the character. And that'll really help you a lot as well. And there we go. So that's kind of what I've ended up with. I just added a bit of shading just to kind of help bring it across a little clearer. And yeah, even things like, you know, the motion lines in the clothing, just a few streaks thrown in here and there. That really helps, you know. That can add a lot to the character. But you can see, I think, a few big focal points in this character. Definitely the triangle kind of shape in the shoulders. The hand, I think, is a real good center point because that's, you know, it's giving it that attitude and having a nice little focal point on that hand there, trying to keep it, you know, nice and fluid, and it's, you know, it's kind of the way it's rested and that finger that's kind of just thrown out. And then I think another big focal point is the hair and the shape of the hair, giving it, you know, kind of a cool, fun kind of feel instead of sticking to the reference so much. I kind of had it much bigger and, you know, kind of exaggerating that afro a little bit more. Basically just trying to have a lot of fun with the character instead of sticking so closely to the reference. And here they are side by side, gives you a bit more of a clearer look at what we've done. So you can see the guy on the left here, that one's what I really stuck close to the reference with that one. And then we've got this one over here that's more loose, and it's, you know, roughly based off the reference, but I kind of went my own way with it, trying to give it some more personality and things like that. So you can kind of see it's probably got a little bit more attitude. You can kind of feel the personality a little bit more. I kind of feel like he might be a little bit more animated as well in a way. So you can kind of see what happens when you just kind of step away, you know, from the reference a little bit. Just kind of look at it at the main pose, basically, and then try and do your own thing and just kind of give it a bit more flair, basically, you know, instead of looking so closely at it. I really feel like that can help. So yeah, there's the comparison. Let's try and do a female character now. So I've got this reference here of this girl. She's like not looking too happy, kind of raging out towards us. I think this will be a really fun one because I just like the energy that's coming across in this reference, like this photo. So it's really good to just grab a really cool photo that's, I especially like her expression. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun with that one and the fists. So that's kind of why I chose this one. So I think it'll be a fun example. So I'm going to start sketching now. And again, notice how I'm really focusing on those outer shapes. First thing I saw was the V in the body, that kind of upside down triangle in the body there. And then I'm really just kind of squaring off those fists, really trying to get that shape. You see how I'm keeping it really loose. I'm literally just looking at the outer shape of the character and kind of trying to simplify it as much as I can in my head and just getting that rough kind of shape. The suggested gesture, basically. I'm really focusing on the gesture of the body. And then I can move closer in and start to do a few more rough details here. So that expression, again, doing the same kind of thing. I'm roughly just looking at that expression. And now I'm just focusing on eyebrows and, the motion of those eyebrows. And I'm kind of doing my own thing. I'm raising up one higher than the other just to get a bit more of a stronger expression. So really just pushing that a lot further. And I'm having a lot of fun with these eyes as well. I always like to go really bold on the top eyelashes and, half as bold on the bottom eyelashes. And yeah, really just kind of, you can see what I'm doing with that mouth, really just trying to focus on the teeth structure and have those lips wrap over the teeth and really bend them around. I really want this to feel quite animated and a bit more fluid. So it's all about just trying to just keep it really, really loose. I break this down into 2 different stages just for this process. So this is the super rough stage. And you'll see in a sec, I'm going to try and, lower this down, the opacity of this, and then clean it up a little bit more. But going through this facial expression, I'm kind of trying to do my own thing, but really just look at that reference as a base, So I like to go a little bit more cartoony, so I've made her eyes a lot bigger, and I haven't even given her a hat. I've decided to go with hair, giving her more of a bunched up hair kind of look that's tied up, of an angry woman. And then I can go through and start cleaning up the fists now and kind of trying to structure them the way I want to, do my cartoony kind of style with those. And then I can hone in on a few more details in that face. And once I get this all up to speed, the rough stage, just start cleaning it up a little bit more. And this is the stage where I can definitely start to really do my own thing. I'm thinking about turning her into She-Hulk. I think that'd be a really good example. So I'm kind of giving her more muscles now, and those shoulder muscles quite strong. I think if she's going to be She-Hulk, she'll have to have a much bigger body, but I'll do that later. But yeah, you can see just trying to really clean things up, trying to go as crisp as I can with this cleaner sketch. It still does follow the reference quite closely, but you can see I'm trying to go a little bit more fluid with it still. A lot more sharp edges, it's more of a style choice. And there we go. So that's kind of what I've ended up with. I'll definitely turn her into She-Hulk later just for some fun. I'll probably have to bring them arms down a little bit more. It doesn't look quite right. But yeah, that's it so far. Now, I really want to talk about some of the choices in the face here. So if you have a look at the reference, you can kind of see with her eyelashes, she does have that kind of same kind of shape. But yeah, I like to stylize them. This is how I stylize doing eyes. So when doing eyes like this, rather than drawing an eye like this and actually having the lashes and having every single lash come out, and then across, that's not too bad. But personally, I like to have them so they're more like this. So you can obviously see what I've done there. Just really simple, up, more of a style choice. Almost treating it like a logo in a way, you know what I mean? So that from a distance, I just find it looks more appealing. So that's kind of how I've decided to do it. And then coming down to a point like this, and that bottom eyelash can come across, and you can see what I've done. I've kind of gone really thin, tapered it out to thick, and then have that curl out like that. And that's pretty much exactly what I've done over here, is that kind of thing. And then just have a couple of little fine details where some wrinkles might go, and then obviously having the eyebrow come up and over, kind of like that. So that's kind of what I chose to do when I did the eye there, rather than sticking to this kind of thing, which is more realistic in a way, I suppose. If I kept going with that, you know, it's more accurate to probably what you would see on a, that's quite pixelated, but you know what I mean. That'd be more of a realistic kind of eye. Whereas when I want to stylize something, I'm going to try and make some choices that are going to make this more appealing and just more fun, kind of, in a way. Like I said, I kind of treat it like a logo. You see that? See, what you could do is, if you want to go half and half, like I could add a couple of extra details, like tiny little 1 or 2 little strands there which resemble more eyelashes, and that's the style choice. Like maybe one underneath like that, and it's adding just that little bit of extra detail. Even with the eyes, so when it comes to inking, and you can see what I'm doing here, I'm kind of playing around with the levels in the inks. So we can go really thin on the sides like that, and this is where you can have a bit of fun. Really thin, then thick up there. We can go an eye pupil in the middle like that. But when you're doing your inks, I've kind of done it here. Basically just go bold, go like this. Literally fill that in with black if you want to. Depends what eye color they are. If you're going to have a character with light blue eyes, don't do this black, because that'll be too harsh. But if they're going to have darker eyes, even like a darker brown, maybe do this with your inks, and then put a nice white eye shine there. I love doing that, because like I said, especially in my eye tutorial, is when you're doing eyes, let's just say you've got an eye like this looking from the side. Okay, there's your eyeball going that way. Your pupil actually drops down in. You can see what's going on here. And so if you've got light coming from this way, the pupil is actually basically a dish like this. If I was looking at that same pupil without the eyeball, you can see what it does. It kind of dips in like a dish. Then your pupil actually will sit inside the dish like this, which means shading, if the light's coming from that way, your shading is going to be inside this way. Okay. Now, I've already done this in the eye tutorial if you want to check that out. But as it comes around, the light will catch in here in that bit. So that's why I've got the darkness up the top of that, because we're going to have the light coming from this direction, which means the light will only catch on the lower half of this dish. You got to think of it like a bowl that's catching light in the bottom half there. So that's kind of how that works. Because there's this white, a little silky kind of glossy sheet over our eyeballs, obviously, you would then have if your light's from this direction, you'll have the eye shine there. You can even have a couple of little eye shines like that going over the pupil. You see how that's got that effect right there. That's kind of what I'm trying to explain with that eye there. So, yeah. So you can see what I kind of mean with style choices, stylizing your character. The way I've done that eye there, the way these eyelashes are done, you know, it's more like a logo than anything. Same with kind of the teeth as well. You can see here on the teeth of this girl here. Oops, there we go. I can fill that in a nice and dark, trying to show one tooth, the gum, and then more teeth, kind of like that. But I'm keeping it nice and solid. They're all held together. Quite bold, as she's really reefing up her lip there. Very similar to the reference here. You can see that big dark gap there. That's kind of what I was looking at. And I really wanted that top lip to be lifted up. But yeah, I'm really treating this kind of like, you know, I don't know what you would call it, a big tube that's kind of wrapping up and around. I really want them lips to look animated instead of being so stiff, you know what I mean? So tried to have a bit of fun with that. And again, from a distance, I want this to look appealing. So in this area, I really just started to hold it together a little bit more. I wanted to see the framing of each tooth and the lip wrapping up and over and around. So that's kind of what I was getting at there. And like I said, I didn't follow the reference with the eyebrows completely. I wanted to go a raised eyebrow and a flat one. And you can also see as the eyebrow here is pushing down, let me just get a red so I can show you. As the eye is pushing down, that bit of skin in here is pushing down on the eyeball. So it's not like, see, this one's raised up, but because I've got the eyebrow pushing down, you can actually see, like, that's why I've chosen this shape, this sharp shape right here, because we have that skin folding right down. You can still see the skin above, that little gap between the eye and the eyebrow. That's the skin that's pushing down on top of the eyelid. So that's kind of why I did that. But anyway, yeah, we'll try and, I'm going to turn that into She-Hulk later on. But yeah, I hope that helps explain a little bit about some style choices within this. I mean, let's talk about the hair a little bit. Look at the shapes. You see the kind of shapes that I went for there? Rather than going for, you know, more of a realistic approach, I have a bit of fun with it, trying to, you know, have some cool, fun shapes in the hair. You know, having some strands look like they're wrapping around the back of the head. I'm trying to think of things like that. And then you've got another one that comes up here. Just little things like that. The fringe, I'm treating the fringe as its own little, what do you call it, like a cowlick, or like treating it like a tongue almost that's wrapping up and over. Just adds a little bit of style to it. Anyway, all right, let's move on to another sketch. All right, let's go for a full body sketch this time. So I've got this reference here of this guy, and yeah, super muscly, but I thought it'd be fun to really go for a full body here. So let's have a bit of fun with it. Again, you can really see I'm just trying to look at some outer shapes of this guy. So the first thing I can notice is a V, that big V in the lats, and I'm trying to focus on that shoulder line. And I really love trying to exaggerate those traps, the shoulder neck muscles above, you know, above the shoulder there that connect to the neck. I really love exaggerating those. So that's why I've pushed those up. So I'm kind of roughly looking at this guy, but I'm really doing my own thing. You can see the proportions of mine are way off, way different. I've even done the legs different because I want my guy to stand straight. So that's what I'm trying to think of here. And have a look at the little things like the shoulders. They're extra pointy, you know, a lot more cartoony in a way, and I'm doing a lot more edges. So I'm trying to focus on triangle edges that are kind of poking out. I'm really exaggerating the muscles here, especially once I get to things like the arms, like the triceps or the biceps. You know, a lot of hard edges, because that's kind of what I want to look at with this guy. If I'm going to stylize him, and he's supposed to be super muscly, like I'll probably turn him into Kratos, then I'm actually going to start doing a lot more hard edges. I want him to look harsh, like super, super ripped and harsh. That's the kind of vibe that I want to get overall. And that's why this reference works really well. I can really get a clear look at this body, and I'm starting to do my own thing with it. And yeah, a clear look at the anatomy too, basically. So I can really start to hone in on, yeah, just how his muscles are going to work. And I really want to do my own thing and focus on hard edges and just have fun with it. Try and have a bit of fun with it. I've got a much smaller head. That's a style choice. Really, really broad shoulders. Way broader than that reference. And that's just to have a bit of fun with, you know. I want to exaggerate the hell out of it. Not even really looking at the reference at this point. I've got my structure, and now I'm trying to just think of my knowledge in anatomy. Also looking at his anatomy slightly, but I'm kind of trying to think about, you know, the way I want to handle this guy now. Now that his structure is there, let's have some more fun with it and do my own thing. You know, I'm kind of feeling really free at the moment. I'm going to have this guy looking at us a little bit more. You know, maybe with more of an attitude look. He's got his chin up. And then, yeah, once I've got my rough, I'm going to start cleaning him up. And it's during this cleanup phase as well that I'm starting to draw even more anatomy. Like the way those muscles, I'm actually looking at that guy's shoulder right there. And I really like the way his muscles work in that shoulder bit. So I'm trying to do that with mine. But mine's shoulders are much bigger because they're more cartoony. And yeah, because it's Kratos, I'm going to add all those all that armor in now. So I've got a really good reference. I've got a few good references actually of his armor from the game. So I'm kind of just trying to layer that over. And you can kind of just see how I'm still trying to follow that anatomy. But I really am doing, my own thing with it. Trying to, you just add all that extra detailing in on that armor now. But you can see that rough pose underneath is really, really helping. And then I'm just trying to, roughly put in that armor over the top. So having a lot of fun with it. I really enjoy doing this kind of stuff. And just having a reference on the side can just really, really help. But remember not to try and stay too strict with yourself and stay too close to the reference. It's not a good thing to do. Sometimes I find that if you stay too close to a reference, things can come across a little too stiff, It depends the kind of style you're doing. Depends if you're really good at hyperrealism. It could come across looking really, really good if you're doing it very close to the reference. But for me personally, if I'm trying to stylize my art and go have a little cartoony edge to it, it's best to just roughly base it off the reference. Try and do your own thing. Give it that edge and really just focus on those outer shapes, just like I told you, and trying to do those harsh edges, a little bit more cartoony stuff. Really go quite bold with the shape and proportions as well. See, I didn't even follow the main proportions. I just went and did my own thing. So there we go. There's my Kratos, basing it off this reference here. So he's all done now. I'd probably even do, like that vein. Like I really like the way that vein works right there. So I'd probably have it, give it a little bit more of a cartoony edge. So it's got a little bit more movement, I suppose. But I like that. I'll do things like that. Really add a lot of veins. Like if I ever brought this guy to high def, and like top quality, I definitely would add a lot more veins and just crazy stuff. Ooh, I can't forget that scar across the belly as well. So I'll definitely have the scar, coming across like that, however it is. But there he is. So you can see what I mean. Trying to go your own way with this style, the style choice there. So let's take that down. You can see the base reference there, and then you just kind of go nuts with the rest. So highly recommend just trying to be free, be really free with it, and try not to stick so close to the reference. That's probably the main thing I could say in this tutorial when stylizing your art. All right, we might do one more sketch, I think. All right, let's do this guy here. I don't really have a good high quality version of him, but that's fine. I really only want it for the gesture. I couldn't find a high quality version of that, so it's a bit pixelated. But anyway, what I want to do is, and we'll do this in real time, so I won't time lapse this bit. Let's just see what we can do. See if we can get a rough gesture based off just this, and that way you can really see how I'm working in real time. So what I want to kind of do, the idea that I've got is I want to do the gesture of this, but let's turn it into, say, Hulk. So that way we're doing our own thing. He's like a really bulky, big guy. I can use the knowledge that I have of anatomy, things like that. But I really want to get across that the way that I can stylize it, just looking at this reference, okay? So let's have a go. So first thing I'm looking at is the shape of the pose. So really curving it out like this. I'll just move that line over there. And then I really want to have like, I don't know, that big V. So let's just focus on the rough kind of shape. So we'll go something like that. Really big V. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Actually, what we'll do is I'll go up, because I really like that rib cage. You see that rib cage goes up and across. Let's try and focus on that. That's kind of what I'm seeing. So I want to focus on that and then in. Yes, perfect. Something like that. And now I'm going to start to kind of try and bring in a big shape or a big cylinder. Super rough, by the way. I need to shrink this down so I can actually see what I'm doing. And then I really like the angle of those hips. So let's try and get those in. And it's really kind of splurged out. So now one thing that I'm looking at here as well, I'll try and get a red so you can actually see what I'm trying to look at, or blue. We've got a nice light blue. Another thing I'm looking at is this middle line and how it just keeps going up like that. It's my thought process. It goes right up to the shoulder, right up. Okay, I'm kind of looking at that and then that. And that's kind of what I want to keep my eye on. So let's try and do that. So I'm continuing that up. That's where the shoulder and the chest would go. Something like that. And then we got this this little pec muscle that's under the pec. And that reefs right up above and lines up with the bicep. So let's try and do that. So the pec like that. Alright, so pec there lines right up with the bicep up there like that, doesn't it? So that's kind of what I want to look at next. And then under the pec, like here, see that line where the pecs stop, both of them? Let's try and aim for that. So I'll put that there roughly. And then we'll try and get the other pec that's up here. You still have this tiny gap where you can see the body on the other side, but you got the other pec there and then the body. So let's try and do that. So up, nice big strong pec, up, and then you'll have that side of the body there, kind of like that, folding under. And then now let's look at that V that goes down and up. So I'm making mine more massive. You got to remember it's Hulk. It's going to be like a Hulk. So mine's much bigger, but I'm looking at these tiny little bits of anatomy there. All right, so Hulk's going to have massive lats. I'm also looking at this. You see that the way those muscles work right there, and then that nice big muscle under there. Let's try and get that shape going, but really big for Hulk, like huge. So underneath there, in like that, and then up like this. It nearly gets to the biceps there. Now this is the rough stage, so it doesn't matter if it just looks like that, but and then that'll go down into like you can see the rib starting about like here. So let's really have that rib kind of coming up and then out like that. All right, because this here, this point is also, that's the rib. All right, we're gonna have to have that hip there. All right, abs. So abs like that, something like that. Anyway, I'm looking at the abs now, like, you know, 1, 2. So you got the ribs that are going like this, like the way I've drawn them, up, and it's like that arch. And there's your center line, like up the abs like that. So it's kind of what I'm looking at right there. And then there's your rib cage pops out. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Now I need to shrink this down just a bit. Whoops. Let's just shrink that down, just like that, and keep going with it. So really want to have that tricep coming out quite big like this. There's also this shoulder, so the shoulder comes out like that, then the tricep. So remember that, very, very tricky kind of angle. So that's what I'm looking at there. So now I can really get that bicep in too, like that now. Now, I think from this stage, I think I was focusing too much on the anatomy, but that's okay. Because, you know, first thing we should have done is the gesture from the start, just rough lines. Let's just do it now. So we'll just throw in this leg, something like that, like really, really rough leg there. Now, what I want to do, well, I'll throw in the kind of undie lines, you know, I like to draw him like as if he's wearing underwear, and that really helps me know where the hips go exactly. So I'll do it like that. But yeah, what I want to do is I want to make my legs not connect. You see how his legs are connecting there, and I don't know, for me that's like a bit of a tension point. So because it's my drawing, I can actually separate that easily. So let's try and do that. So leg, you know, down like that, however it wants to go. And then I'll just have the calf muscle and everything. Try and separate it so that foot can just go more like, I don't know. And then tiny head, because it's Hulk. Huge body, tiny head. And that's kind of what I'm thinking with you. So we'll try and get the shoulders in there now. Now, I'm not too happy with the whole gesture overall. I think he looks a bit weird, to be honest. The proportions are kind of crazy. So this is probably where I would, you know, it's because I didn't do the gesture first completely, and that's why that's off. So what I'm going to do is, let me just shrink it for now, and I'm just going to go nuts with liquefy. I love doing liquefy. and this should fix things. But yeah, so I really want to have like, and I can add a lot more energy with liquefy. You see what I'm doing? You can really add a lot more energy, really have him flinging out a little bit more. I may even stretch out that leg that way more. And yeah, I really like the way that energy is working there now. It looks awesome. So we'll do that. I can really have that. Yeah, for sure. That's working. Even the muscles on this side, I might even have them like quite huge. So we'll really rip that up there. Really big arm, really big biceps and stuff. But I think I really want a massive chest, like huge chest. So let's try and like puff that chest right out nice and big. And I'll try and get it to look somewhat decent. Yeah, there we go. You see the difference there? First one's pretty rough. Because that was probably one of my problems right there, was that I was looking way too closely to the reference. Like, as I was trying to talk about all this anatomy stuff, I didn't realize, but subconsciously, yeah, looking too close to it. Whereas in reality, I should have probably just looked at the shapes, the rough gesture, really draw it out as quick as possible, just the outer shape. But yeah, and then move into the anatomy. That's where I went wrong there. So what I would do, even this looks rough as that one. So what I would do is, yeah, tone that down, and then we'll clean it up and see what we can come up with. So if I have a look a bit more, I'm going to try and like treat this like these shapes. So I want to go up, we'll go out, up. I'll size my pen down a little bit, but you can see that kind of shape there I quite like. We'll do the rough kind of the hip. Let's do a hip there, or out and then in. You see that kind of triangle shape there, that's stylized, and then up to that rib again. So I really want to have that rib kind of go up and then up around. We can have a nice little curve. Let's try and get that pec in like this and then up. So really have that pec kind of quite strong around. Like I'll really pack that in there. And like I said, I really want to have that chest puffing out a bit more like that. So you can go like that, and then we'll just slightly see the shoulder like that. It's really going to make him look a lot more thicker and solid. We'll bring that chest up here, puff it out, and then I'll try and get a little bit more of that shoulder in the back there. There we go, because it's a really weird angle. There we go. Biceps nice and big. Really making this more Hulk-like than the guy right there. See, because that guy's so skinny, his muscles would be totally different to Hulk, so I have to kind of do my own thing with the anatomy and look at, you know, kind of base off my own knowledge of anatomy, especially when it comes to big guys, so big muscly guys. And that's kind of what I'm thinking of there. I'm not really looking at his, because he's so skinny, it wouldn't work for a Hulk anatomy. That's why you look at these wrists up here, and I've got this massive mountain of a wrist coming off, whereas his is nearly just a straight triangle. Whereas I want to do Hulk's as more of a bubbling, like, yeah, kind of a rounded kind of thing there. So that's how I'm thinking about that. Here we go. So I want to stylize the detailing in the ab area. Let's do that. So I'll go a nice little hook around there. I'll have it kind of lightly come over here and then down quite dense and dark around this rib part here where the rib cage gets darkest. And then I'll kind of have it curl up to go back up again like that. And you see that's kind of stylizing the outlines a little more there now, because then we can start to go up and we'll try and get that. You see that guy's got those muscles around there, so we'll try and get those a little bit more in Hulk, because that looks kind of cool on him. Those kind of diamond shapes that go up, I just treat them like zigzags sometimes, and I actually have the angle of them a little bit wrong there, so I'm going to straighten up that angle, and they actually go about more like this. Hang on, brush this way. Yeah, kind of like that. So that's kind of how they go. Now I'm really starting to think about my own kind of anatomy now or knowledge of anatomy for these legs and things like that. Really want to have, you know, get them pants kind of stretching a bit more there. Add a bit of that. definitely has that kind of crutch come up there. But yeah, like I said, I really want to stretch that leg right out. Let's go nuts with that one there. Have that kind of going out in a different direction. There we go. That's kind of how I want to do the legs, so they're a little bit more separated in a way. So, and yeah, there we go. And I'll bring in this tricep a little more. Really want to hook that in and around and have it come back up, something like that, I reckon. And again, like, I'm not really following that guy's anatomy now. I'm thinking of my own, trying to get that bicep in like nice and big. Yeah, there we go, something like that. It's quite difficult, but then come up, yeah. Get that elbow in about there. Yeah. Nice thick forearms again. Hulk's got really big forearms. There we go. And I'll probably even try and, I don't know if I'll draw a face. I think we've kind of run out of time, but I'll try and do a little slight face. I'm kind of looking at this guy's expression now because I like the way he looks there. I'll try and roughly do it. Anyway, super rough. That'll do. I'll leave it at that. So there's the Hulk roughed in using this kind of reference on the left there. So yeah, hopefully slowing it down like that, really talking about each kind of thought process there might help understand how I'm kind of tackling it and trying to stylize it basically. A lot of it does come down to ink work as well. You can really stylize your inks. Might even do a tutorial. Yeah, we will. I'll do another tutorial, like a part 2, down the track, about how to stylize your inks to make your line work and your black outlines look better. So we'll make it so there's already a sketch involved and done, and we'll just ink them, and I'll show you how to really enhance your outlines like that to it's kind of like the process of how I did the eyes on She-Hulk here, and it's kind of like that same kind of process of thinking of it like as a logo or something more appealing, and that's how I treat outlines on the entire character sometimes. So we'll try and get into that a lot more in depth on another tutorial. Alright, well that's it for this tutorial. I hope you got a bit out of that. That was a lot of fun drawing and sketching up some stuff there. Trying to get a lot of energy in there, and yeah, it's all about just really pushing your art to try and give it that edge, you know what I mean? Instead of things being, sticking to the reference too much, you can really branch out and just go your own way basically. So that's what it's all about. So thanks for watching, and yeah, I'm going to be doing the skin tutorial part 2 next. And we're going to focus on like different ethnicities and just different skin tones and stuff like that. And so that'll be a bit of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, alright, well, thank you for watching, and keep drawing, and I'll see you all next time.